Alright, so this is our last section. In this lesson, we'll be talking about how to name an acid. So in your notes, this is your level 5 Mace Windu section. But there's just a few things that we got to talk about when we're naming acids. And one of the most important things is one of our indicators that tells us that we are naming an acid. And that is that we have hydrogen at the beginning. So you'll see here all of our examples, we're going to have hydrogens right at the beginning. But there are two main types of acids, one of them being binary and the other being ternary. And you've heard those terms before when we were doing our ionic compounds. We had binary compounds and ternary compounds. Binary being that we have a single element, and ternary meaning that we have a polyatomic ion. And if you remember the polyatomics, those are those set groups of elements that come together in a package, and they have a set charge for them. But a binary, that's just going to be a single element bonded with our hydrogen. So a few examples that we might see: HCl, H2S, and HBr. So if you have a binary acid, we'll begin with the name with the prefix of hydro. So all of these will have hydro, hydro, hydro. And then we're going to follow it by the root of the anion. So in our first one, we have chlor. In this one, we have sulf. And in this one, we've got brome. And then the last thing we're going to do is write ic and then acid. So we've got hydrochloric acid, hydrosulfic acid, hydrobromic acid. And that's how we do binaries. There's not very many that we can do just because, like if you look at their charges, we've got -1 charge, -2 charge. Bromine is also a -1 charge. So basically these are a lot of elements just with -1 and -2 charges. So there's only so many elements with those charges, so you'll see the same ones of these kind of over and over. But if we had like HI, then we would have hydro, iodic acid, and so on and so forth. Those are the binary examples. So now we're ready for the ternary compounds. Ternary acids, sorry. And our first one, the first thing we want to do is look at what polyatomic we have. So for this one, we have sulfate. For the second one, we have sulfite. For the third one, we have nitrate. And for the last one, we have carbonate. And so the naming of our acid depends on the ending of our polyatomic. So if we have 8, the way we're going to name this is we're going to write out the root, and then we're going to write ic acid. But the important thing when we're dealing with ternary is that we do not write hydro. We're just going to start with the name of the polyatomic. So if we have 8, we write ic acid, and if we have ite, then we just write us acid. So in the first one we see we have 8 here, so we know we can write that as sulfuric acid. On the second one we have ite, so we know that this one is sulfurous acid. Next we have another 8, so we have nitric acid. And lastly we have carbon-8, so we have carbonic acid. So again, just to review, if you have a binary acid, then you are going to write hydro, then the base name of your element with the suffix of ic, and then the word acid. And that's going to be if you are bonding hydrogen to a single element. And then our ternary compounds, we are going to be bonding hydrogen to a polyatomic. We are not going to write hydro at the beginning. And if our polyatomic has the ending of 8, we will be attaching the suffix of ic and then adding acid to the end. And if our polyatomic has the suffix of ite, then we will be attaching us and then acid. And that is how we name acids.